everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today we're going to talk to you about the IWI Tavor rifle. This is the SAR rifle, semi-automatic rifle. It's a bullpup design. Comes in a couple different variations. This is the 16.5-inch barrel variation. It also comes in an 18-inch barrel. The body is available in black like this one, flat dark earth, and OD green. The overall gun length is 26 1/8 from front to the end of the flash suppressor with the 16.5-inch barrel. The barrel itself is a 6-groove right-hand twist, 1 in 7 barrel. It's made out of chrome olive vanadium steel and it's chrome lined. So the barrel is designed to handle very high heat and be extremely durable and long-lived. The rifle itself weighs about 7.9 pounds, so it's not super light, but it's also lighter than most ARs. It's not an extremely heavy rifle. And with the bullpup design, it puts most of the weight towards the back, so it leans into your shoulder. So holding this long term, it doesn't end up feeling heavy as you're standing there waiting to use, especially when you're hunting or target shooting. It comes from the factory with a 30-round magazine, and it has a window. And you can see, not only can you see the rounds, but it has a little indicator that will slide up and down the window to give you an idea where it's at. Now this happens to be a loaded magazine, so now that I've showed it to you, I'm going to put it away from where we're at, since I don't like to have ammo staying around. The rifle itself is unloaded. You can see that there's no magazine, the chamber is open, or the bolt is open, and there's nothing in the chamber. I'll put it back down and talk about a few of the other characteristics of it. It comes from the factory with a Picatinny rail on the top, and you can see I've got a scope mounted on it, but the rail is full-length rail. That's right from the factory. And it comes with a Picatinny rail on the side that I happen to have this light mounted on. On the other side, you have the non-reciprocating charging handle. So you don't have to worry about it hitting your thumb. You know, if you're holding it like this, you don't have to worry about the charging handle taking your thumb off as it reciprocates. The gun is designed to be ambidextrous, though it's not fully ambidextrous from the factory. It's mostly set up for right-hand ejection. This little block here hits the shell as it comes out and drives it forward if you're using 5.56 and kind of forward and to the side if you're using 2.23. But both types of ammo will cause the shell to eject away from your face. So a left-handed shooter can shoot this without having to change it over and not have to worry about getting shells in the face. However, if you do decide to change it over, the safety, which is here, this is the back side of the safety. If you flip it over, it has an AR-style safety lever. You can pop this out, flip the safety around, and put the safety on the other side. You can take the charging handle and reverse that over to the other side and put the Picatinny rail on this side. This plate removes, goes onto the other side, and all of that can be done without buying any additional parts. However, you do need to buy a left-handed bolt to swap the ejector around, and they are available from IWI. And that will give you the ability to make it full ambidextrous. One of the things to note about this is, like all bullpups, the chamber is back here towards the rear behind the trigger. So there is a trigger linkage bar that connects the trigger all the way back here, and the trigger pack is right about here. So here's where the actual hammer and trigger and sear mechanism is. The chamber is right here. Magazine mounts here, so now I can show you that. I have a magazine that just has snap caps in it. These are inert dummy rounds. The magazine loads in from the bottom. This is a 10-round Magpul magazine. I use this when I'm hunting with a 5-round limiter in it to comply with state regulations. The advantage of that, it's nice and flush and makes a compact package. The magazine release is here. You push the magazine release to release the magazine. And I'll show you in a bit when I stand up with it how easy it is to operate that and how seamless it is to change the magazines. It'll also accept pretty much any PMag AR style magazine. So here's a 30-round PMag, empty. That slides right in, makes a little bit longer of a package, and this would even accommodate the new 40 round PMag that they recently came out with. I only ever had one problem in the magazine with this, with that ASE steel mag. It didn't want to pick up a round. Otherwise, every magazine I've tried in it has worked flawlessly, and every ammo that I've put through it has been absolutely flawless. The bolt release is a little bit different on this from many others. It's this lever right here. So I'm going to put a magazine with the snap caps in it. And to release the bolt, you simply push up on that lever and the bolt closes. And you can do that with your thumb as you're loading a magazine into it, and I'll show you that when I stand up. And then to cycle it, you pull back on the charging handle here and chamber another round, ejecting the round that was in it. One of the things that you want to make sure of that you do with this is you don't ride the charging handle. I did in this case because I was showing it to you. Notice it didn't want to close all the way. It does not have a forward assist. So you want to just pull the charging handle back, let go of it, and let it chamber the round. I'll go ahead and eject the round. And I'll show you when I stand up with it, the proper way to work with that. Overall, it's a very ergonomic rifle. It's very well designed. It's designed to be used very easily, and it's designed to be used in the harshest of environments. Some of the things that I've added to this particular rifle is this Leapers 3-12 scope with illuminated reticle. And it makes an excellent hog hunting scope, but you can mount any Picatinny accessory on there. You could mount something like a red dot, or you can even, instead of the flashlight, you can put the red dot over here to do the long distance through the scope, tilt the rifle, short distance through the red dot. So it's a very flexible configuration, and you can even get an accessory to put a Picatinny rail under the handguard if you wanted to put like a forward grip or something like that. If you're not going to use a forward grip, it would be less desirable to have that there, because then that's where your hand goes and it wouldn't be all that pleasant. The trigger on this from the factory is a combat style trigger. It's 8+ pounds. When it first comes out of the factory, the trigger is a little bit tough, but as you cycle it, it breaks in and ends up being a very nice trigger, especially for a bullpup. Bullpups are not known to have particularly nice triggers. This one does. There's a little bit of creep in it at the end, but overall it's an excellent trigger for a bullpup platform. There are several third parties that make triggers for it. This one happens to have the Timoney Trigger in it, which is a match grade trigger and makes the trigger of this like a fine bolt action rifle. It becomes an excellent trigger. So you can replace the combat trigger that it comes with aftermarket precision, hunting or target triggers. A few of the other things about this is it's designed to be field maintained. You can take apart everything you need to take apart with either the tip of a bullet or like a punch. You don't need an extensive tool set to disassemble the rifle for the purpose of cleaning, for as far down as you need to take it to clean it. One of the things that generates a lot of questions is this little keyhole right here. This is not a manufacturer safety lock or anything like that. It does require a special tool to operate it. This is for the purpose of removing the barrel assembly. They do sell a 9mm conversion kit for this that comes complete with all the parts you need to switch it over. And this would be part of the process. You would unlock the barrel so that you can disassemble it. But don't let that confuse you. It's not a field swap on the barrel. You have to disassemble the forward grip and several parts of the front of the rifle to be able to change out the barrel. It's something you can do yourself without needing a gunsmith and without needing any tools except for this operating tool for this, which does come with the kit, but it's not something you're going to do necessarily at the range or out in the field. You would want to have a nice clean place where you have some time to work and the ability to completely disassemble the front part of the rifle to do that. Let me show you how it comes apart. It comes apart fairly easy. I'm going to use this snap cap to simulate a bullet. All you have to do is put the bolt forward, which it is, punch out this pin, and pull it all the way through, which you'll see on the other side is the cap pin. Pull the butt plate down, which is, by the way, is a nice solid rubber butt plate and really absorbs the recoil well. Reach in there, pull the bolt out, and you now have access to the bolt to disassemble it. You can see that the bolt is on a sliding with a spring. The recoil spring is here. The front of the bolt itself is a classic AR style bolt, and this is the fixed long stroke piston part of the gas system. So it is a piston operated gas system instead of direct impingement, and it really does do a decent job of keeping the internals of it clean as it cycles and confining most of the residue to the piston assembly itself. This entire thing disassembles either with your fingers, or if you had something that was a little bit sticky, you could use a head of a bullet or a punch to do that. On the inside of the rifle, this may be a little difficult to do with the camera. Let's see if we can get this where you can see it. You can see that at the top circle, the top tunnel that you see is the gas piston area. So the piston goes into that, that's the gas tube, and the bottom one is the chamber. And it's all accessible from the back or from the side as you work your way through cleaning it. It does come with a cleaning kit. It comes with a brush and all of the stuff necessary to clean it, oil it, field maintain it. But you can also use any standard cleaning rod or anything else that you use to clean any of your other rifles. It doesn't require any special cleaning equipment. Popping the trigger assembly out is equally easy. There's two pins here and here, and you just punch them out. Now normally you can just reach over the other side and grab them, but I'm flipping it over so you can see. Again, these are captive pins. Flip down this lever right here, which is the bolt catch, and it exposes the trigger assembly. And the easiest way to do it is just tip it up and pop the trigger out. Now the trigger pack that comes from the factory is a polymer trigger pack, and it's very durable, it's very high quality. The trigger itself would be steel and the body of it's polymer. This is the Timoney Trigger. This results in about a 4-pound trigger, an extremely crisp, precision trigger, and it's an aluminum body, steel hammer. No modifications were needed to install this. It's designed to fit that same exact factory trigger pack. So pretty much I popped the old pack out, popped this one in. Going back to the factory trigger would be as simple as popping this one out and sticking the factory one back in. The only difference I've seen with this one is with the design of the hammer. It does take a little bit harder push to get the bolt in as you're installing the bolt. The hammer has a slightly higher profile, but as it has been cycled a few times, that's worn a little bit smooth. It's kind of broke in a little bit, and that's gotten a little bit easier. Putting the trigger back in is as easy as taking it out. Flip the rifle up. You can do it in a number of different orientations. Lift up the bolt release, drop the trigger pack down in there, drop the bolt release back down, drive the pins in. Now I did notice that on the Timoney Trigger, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to drive this pin forward. You have to get a little slap. On the factory trigger, it does slide in fairly easily. And the trigger pack is reinstalled. Reinstalling the bolt is similarly easy. Once you've cleaned it, reassembled it, and oiled it, with the piston facing the top of the rifle, because remember the gas system is up here at the top and the chamber is a little bit lower, you just, for one thing you have to do as you're playing with it, you're probably going to at least once set it down on this pin, and if you do that it'll put the pin back in the closed position. So this pin has to be out. Slide the bolt back in, give it a little shove, close the back part, and then pop this pin back in, which sometimes can be a little bit difficult if you don't get the bolt all the way forward and don't get this totally closed. And of course it's much easier to do it when you're not trying to show somebody on camera. There you go, pop the pin through, and it's back in action. At this point, it's back operating, ready to go. So let me show you the trigger now. This of course would be the Timoney Trigger and not the factory trigger. And the other thing I'll show you is how the bolt release works. When you pull the handle back and open the bolt, This is the bolt lock. You pull this down towards you, which of course it's easier to do with your hand instead of your thumb, and that locks the bolt open. Of course, when you're holding the rifle, you would just reach under there with one of your fingers and pull it down as you pull the bolt back. I'm going to load a snap cap in there and demonstrate the trigger. So, close the bolt. Now the trigger on this is the standard AR type safety, so I'm going to flick it to the fire position. We know that there's an inert round in there. And I'm going to hold the trigger with my left hand so that you can get a better look at it. You see, oops, that was quick. I forgot this one. Nice this Timoney Trigger is. So, very little take up, just about that, and a crisp break. So with the factory trigger, there's a little bit more travel and a little bit more creep at the brake. With the Timoney Trigger, it's a very, very nice precision trigger. Put it back onto safe. And it's also much lighter. Of course, it's about a 4-pound trigger as opposed to an 8+ pound trigger. Now, one of the things that you will probably see for this, on the factory trigger pack, there is an extra spring, and it's used to ensure that the trigger properly resets under adverse conditions. And you can take about 2 pounds off the trigger, take it down from, I think it's around 10 to around 8 by removing that spring. Doing so does potentially compromise the gun's ability to reset the trigger if it gets dirty. So after an extended amount of use or adverse conditions, dirt, sand, whatever, you might find it in a position where the trigger doesn't reset. So it's probably not recommended to remove that spring. The Timoney Trigger doesn't have that extra spring, it comes ready to go. So if you're unhappy with the factory trigger, either get another trigger pack, remove the spring, and have the other trigger pack with you in case it gets dirty. Get a Timoney. There's also Geissele makes a trigger. There's a couple out there on the market that are all high quality. But modifying the trigger by removing that spring does put you in the potential risk of having a malfunction while you're out there trying to use it. One other thing to note is the birdcage is removable so that you can replace it with a suppressor or whatever other muzzle accessory you want. It's on there pretty good. I won't be able to take it off without taking a wrench to it, but it is removable. It's not pinned or welded, so that you could put a suppressor or a different type of birdcage on there if you want to. Just to show you an example, this is the illuminated reticle, and of course it's very difficult to get the camcorder to line up. It's not a long eye relief scope. It's meant to be used with your a good solid cheek weld. But with the illuminated reticle in multiple colors, combined with the possibility of using this green flashlight, so the green light, the red reticle, makes hog hunting at night a breeze. And hogs, they can't see the green as well as they can see other colors, so it doesn't stand out to them. This Leaper scope is a relatively inexpensive scope, about $250. I wouldn't put it in the same category as like a Leupold, but an equivalent quality or equivalent function Leupold would probably be $1,200 plus. So bang for the buck. It's a great little scope. It does hold zero. It's very clear optics. The reticle is easy to see. So this little Leaper scope has served me quite well in the various things I'd want to do with it. And with the 3:12 zoom and adjustable parallax, it covers the entire grade. So I just wanted to give a quick view of this hunting scope and its use on this rifle. And here's an example of how IWI would plan on using this rifle. Notice I've got the rifle tucked into my body and it's touching at multiple points, and as I move, the rifle pretty much just moves with me, and it has less of a tendency to overswing than ARs and longer rifles do. And you've got a multiple point grip on it. My forearm is resting against the front of the grip. My hand is holding the fore end. The rifle's up against my shoulder. I've got a hold of it at the back of the grip. I'm basically holding it within a fist with my trigger finger available, and this rifle is still unloaded. And then you can even bring your arm down and press it up against the magazine. So you're pretty much solidly tucked in with the rifle, and it really becomes part of you. It's very easy to hold and it's very light. Because the Bullpup drives all the weight towards the back, it's putting the weight of the rifle into my shoulder. So I can easily hold the rifle up with just a couple fingers, and theoretically could do this all day. When you're tucked in with it, my arms can rest up against my body, and basically, as long as you can stand, you can hold the rifle. From the other side, that same grip, you can see how when I'm in position, it's just naturally up against my body, and it allows me to use my body to further support my arm and the rest of the rifle. So it makes a very easy, solid package. Now you can easily hold it this way if you want to. You can even hold it out freehand. It bounces very, very well. See, it doesn't really want to tip either way. As I rock it back and forth, it ought to pretty much recenters. Now I was going to show you earlier, if I lock the bolt back, pulling back on the bolt handle, pulling down on the bolt lock, it locks the bolt open. Ejecting the magazine is as simple as when you're holding onto it. I'm going to pull my hand back here just so that you can see. I like the bolt. It's tough to do this when I'm trying to do it without blocking your view. But releasing the magazine, you can bring your thumb back and hit the magazine. Now, with your thumb in the normal firing position up here, it's very unlikely you're going to hit it. I have never dropped my magazine unintentionally. When it comes time to put the magazine back into play, if you put the magazine in holding your thumb out as you do it, you can put the magazine up into the well and hit the bolt release as you do it. So it makes a magazine change extremely efficient and extremely fast. When it comes time to change the magazine again, you normally would have your hand up here holding the rifle. I'm going to put it down here so I don't block your view. Again, you just bring your hand back and drop the magazine. It does have last round hold open, so when the magazine's empty, it will lock the bolt open for you. I'm just demonstrating if you were to lock it open yourself. So overall, it's a well thought out platform. It's easy to use, it's intuitive to do everything you would want to do, and they even thought about the fact that people may not want to put optics on it, or may want to just use it with factory sights. So it comes from the factory with 2 flip-up sights, and they're embedded right in the Picatinny rail, and they don't even interfere with the use of the slot, and you just pull them up with your finger. And the front sight's a point sight with a tritium tube, so you get a little bit of an illuminated dot at the point sight. The back sight on mine I can't lift up at the moment because the scope interferes, but it's right here. You can see it right there. And I could lift it up a little bit just so that you can see it's what it looks like. But it would flip up and it's a peep sight. And notice I didn't have to remove the sights to put my scope on. So if my scope were to fail, I could simply remove the scope, put it in my bag, flip the sights up, and rock on. So they've thought of everything. It's just a very well thought out rifle. Yeah, I've used this hog hunting, and I've used it target shooting, and it's performed flawlessly every time I've taken it out. And you'll see from some of the range footage, it's very easy to shoot. It's easy to shoot well. Recoil is minimal on it, and it's just overall an excellent rifle. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, hang on for some more range footage, and have a great day.
Now I'm going to go for the center head.